All right, that's just 4 minutes past. I think we'll make a restart there. So just before we kick off, everyone, first of all, welcome along to the third leadership, inspirational leadership series. Just a couple of admin points before we start. If just everybody could stay on mute, that'd be good. And also keep your camera off. We're recording this so that it can be kind of uploaded and people can watch it at a later date. If you've got any questions as we move through, feel free to pop them in the chat. Major Webster is going to be keeping a wee eye on that, and hopefully, if time permits, we'll have a chance to ask some of those questions towards the end. So without further ado, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Brian Wood, MC. Brian is a former soldier in the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment. Brian left the army as a colour sergeant. He was awarded the Military Cross for gallantry at the Battle of Danny Boy, which I'm sure we'll come on to talk about in a bit. He's now a business owner, an inspirational speaker, and he's joining you tonight. So welcome, Brian. You there, Brian? Oh, maybe 2 seconds. I think we've got a wee technical difficulty. Give me a second.
I'm in now. Am I in? Can you hear me?
I can hear you all right. I can't see you though.
Oh, hang on. There we go. Hello. What's going on?
Hello.
You good?
Hiya. I'm good. Thanks very much. We got there in the end. I think there's a thing where you can't take your camera off. That's probably what happened there. You switched it off and couldn't get it back on again. Hopefully you heard of that.
Yeah, I did, but I like the element of surprise. So thank you very much for the intro. You know, it's a pleasure and a great honor for me to come on and share, you know, sort of my experiences, and then we can definitely have a chat about, you know, what makes a good leader, what's the foundations, what's the ingredients, and and hopefully definitely get some questions sent from the cadets over, because it's really important. You know, it's not all about myself and my experience. It's about hopefully, you know, giving some examples that people can take away and maybe implement them within, you know, their own life or in their, you know, own area, being the cadets. But I'm just going to crack on and butt in. You know, if you want to ask any questions throughout sort of what I'm going to cover, really, it's not a problem.
Right.
So
no worries, good.
I'm Brian Wood. Sweet. So I'm Brian Wood, and I'm known as Woody. And I spent 17 years in the 1st Battalion, the Princesses of Wales Royal Regiment, and it's a Hampshire regiment. We recruit from, you know, southern England, and it's infantry, so it's a frontline soldier. And like I said, I spent 17 years as a frontline soldier, and then throughout that 17 years, I went operationally a number of times. I did 2 tours of Kosovo, 2 tours of Iraq, and a tour of Afghanistan. But before I go on to talk about that, I'll go back to my pre-military days and my childhood and upbringing. So I had a really good upbringing. I had incredible support from my family, and I'm from a really heavy military family. I mean, we've got over a couple of 100 unbroken years of service, and it's very well ingrained in our family. But I was growing up, I was quite good at football, so I was at Reading School of Excellence, Chelsea, and I wasn't really destined to go down the military environment, but I never made the grade to be a professional football player. And I think I was sort of jealous of my dad's relationship with my older brother, because he was serving, my dad was serving at the time. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. So I headed down to my local careers office. And in them days, in 1997, there were physical careers office, because we never had all of this technology and portals. So I actually got
the wonders.
Yeah, I mean, I got on the number 18 bus from my local village here in Hampshire and went into Aldershot and just spoke to the recruitment advisor there, and he said, look, you know, our local regiment is the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment, PWRR, the Tigers, and if you join, you know, you will definitely travel the world, and at the levels that you're playing football, you know, you'll probably be pretty much a full-time football player. And actually, you know, he did sell me the dream, and I was bought into it, and I thought that's what I want to do. And then I went into training, and I got into the
Brian?
16 in 9 months. I started Basingbourne phase 1, and it was a shock. You know, I'd been obviously with my mum and dad for such a long period. Then all of a sudden, I'm on my own going through the camp gates. You know, it is initially a shock, but everyone else was in the same situation as me. Yeah. So we just you get talking, and you know, you just kind of within minutes you're bonding, and you know, then you go into this, you know, big size dormitory, so you're sharing rooms, and then you have to, you know, you have to create conversation, and you then sharpish have friends, and then you're all on the same mission as each other to try and pass out of phase 1. So you're just getting your head down, getting amongst it, trying to take in the environment that is different, but good. It's challenging, but it keeps you on your toes. And, you know, just from such a young age, I was really educated on values. I understood values anyway from a young age, because I had my dad who, you know, made sure that we understood home values and what that meant and what that looked like. But I was also very fortunate enough to have, you know, the British Army kind of, you know, really educate us and dissect the core values. So I got to understand, you know, that at a really young age, and I had a purpose, I had a belonging, you know, I had an identity for the first time ever. Even though I was only at training as phase 1, I still had an identity, which was brilliant. And it was challenging, testing, but I really lapped it up. I think I just got into the swing of it, you know, quite sharpish. I mean, I had my brother and my dad to give me some solid advice. My dad really got me at a place of fitness where I needed to be and more, and just really enjoyed it.
You'd be pretty fit anyway with your football, wouldn't I would assume?
No, I was fit through football, and I did look after myself when I was younger. I kind of stayed away from that crowd as well. I could have easily edged in, but I was different. You know, I was motivated. I did have self-discipline, and I really wanted to. If you know, football broke my heart, I didn't make it, but I had to, you know, I had to understand the reasons why, and then just go for another career. And it was, you know, the military was my second choice really, and I went with it, and I just give everything and more. And yeah, you know, touch wood, I just cracked on, got my head down, you know, didn't, you know, shout and gob off or get amongst it. And I just was like, we call them the grey men, really, just in the background, just got on with my tasks each day, got on my locker layouts and stuff like that, and just kind of progressed through training. Completed phase 1 in Basingbourne, passed out of Basingbourne, then went to my trade training, which was the infantry battle school in Catterick. And that's when you were really kind of, it then ramps up slightly. You know, you are there at a battle school for, you know, a reason, and it's to get amongst it, to embrace it, get stuck in and listen to your instructors, because they've got a lot of experience. And that's what I did. I just really got, you know, put my head down, push forward, and you know, just kind of excelled from there. And training was good. You know, I did enjoy it. It was tough, clearly. You had your moments, and I missed home sometimes, and you know, I kept on reminding myself why I was there in the first place and what I wanted to achieve. You know, this was just a phase I needed to get through to go on to reaching the battalion. But yeah, after however many weeks of training in Catterick, I then passed out of Catterick and then went to my regiment, we were 5 airborne at that time in Canterbury. Yeah, punched over to Canterbury, got in my regiment, my battalion, and just really experienced some good people, some real loyal people. Made me feel welcome straight away. And it was just good few months of bedding in. They were actually on in and out of Ireland. We were kind of on a spearhead at that point, so they were bouncing in and out of Northern Ireland. But with the company that I was with, they went on that mission. So I just got to know everyone in the company really well. Went on my first exercise in America called Pond Jump West, and which was great because we got to really work hard. But then we traveled, we got away and was able to go and travel around America in our own time, go and do some really cool stuff. Basically,
you still
free
be
as a
pretty young
bird.
then, I take it.
Yeah, still young. I wasn't even old enough to drink, but just got amongst it. And then I started to play football. I then represented my battalion, the Corps, which was the infantry, then the British Army, and then I represented the combined services. So I was away just full time playing football pretty much. Then I went to Brazil for 3 weeks, all paid for by the army, playing football. Then I went to Mauritius for 3 weeks playing football, and then South Africa playing football, and then everywhere else in Europe just kicking a ball. It was just incredible. Everything was all done for us, and I was pretty much in tracksuit for a lot. But that happens with every other sport. Boxing, you just go away and you're kind of pulled. Yeah, rugby's a big thing, and it's a sport. You embrace it if you can. If you're a sportsman or woman, then you can really, do some really good stuff within the British Army in the sporting arena. So yeah.
So how did that work then? So you would spend you would do kind of what? Would you just disappear for 2 or 3 weeks and do some football and come back, or were you kind of detached for the battalion for a bit? How did it work?
No, it was basically two weeks on, then I'll come back for a week, then I'll be away for another week, come back. So it was really intermittent, but there was a point in time where I knew I had to make a decision whether I wanted to play sport and not progress through the ranks, or I needed to come away from it a little bit to then do my courses and progress. Yeah. And then in 2002 was my first operational tour. And this was the first time that I had a chance to go and express myself, even as a private soldier. You do pre-deployment training, which is a package that is designed to get you at a stage a stage as a soldier, you're good enough to go on operation. So you're tested and you're looked at from individual all the way to a company level. And it was a good eye-opener for me, and it set the foundations, especially for then going into Iraq, my first time in Iraq. But this for me was good. It was going into a war-torn country, being Kosovo, with the Albanians and the Serbs, who, it was just devastating what that civil war. It was, and then going in there shortly after that and seeing, some of the shallow graves and trying to, sort of maintain that peace, because there were still Serbians within Albania, and we had to protect, a few elderly, occupants which weren't willing to move, and they were like, well, we've not got long left, so I'm not going to up sticks and go. So we had to provide force protection to, we called them the grannies. It was a granny flat and a granny house, and we part of our routine was to go and protect these elderly women, which was an experience. It really was. And then we were on the Serbian border, so we were to interdict traffic of weapons, sometimes drugs, and making sure that whatever was coming in and out of the border was legal. And that was really a good experience. I operated with the Americans, with the Norwegians, with the Swedish, with the Danish, because it was a big NATO task.
Yeah.
So
what age were you then?
I was 21.
Right.
21 in Kosovo, 21 and 22, because I've done 2 tours.
Right.
Which, like I said, it was good. And my first tour of Kosovo, towards the end of it, I went on my junior Insertkader to get promoted to Lance Corporal, and went on this course for 4 weeks, and it was like so cold, because what it's like. It's either hot out there or you're up to your knees in snow, and the environment was really testing, because it was so cold. And we were out on exercises and doing this Carter out there. It was testing. but it was good. Passed my NCS card out there, and actually got promoted out there as well. So we passed it, and then the day later, we were on the helicopter landing pad, where we were then promoted on the landing pad, which was really good. So I kind of I was a young Lance Corporal, going into that or just the back end of that tour, and then I went in and done a second tour in Pristina in Kosovo as a Lance Corporal.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I said, it was good foundations for me in the September 11th happened, and the dynamics for the British Army as a whole shifted really. I just knew it. I remember where I was. I was at Aldershot, just finished football training for the British Army football team, and we were in the showers, and someone come in and said, the Twin Towers had been hit, and I was so naive. I never knew what the Twin Towers were. I was
What's
like,
that? Yeah, I was
we're
a similar age. I was like,
yeah. I was like, what's the Twin Towers? Anyway, I got changed, went out into the foyer, and then just watched it all unfold. And I kind of knew then, this is definitely gonna have an impact. Yeah. And then I went back to Tidworth, where we were based, and we were armored. So we were Warrior armored fighting vehicles, 33-ton worth of armor. And I remember my OC saying that there's going to be a huge Scale A, which is everyone to be on parade for a CO's announcement. And I thought it was either Iraq or Afghan, and went into the gym, and he announced it that we were going out to Iraq to take over from the light infantry, who are now the rifles. And we've got an element of time to build up to it, to go and do pre-deployment for Iraq, and to get ourselves ready. And we were very professional on it. I was quite a senior Lance Corporal at this point as well, so I understood what it was like to command a fire team, to give clear direction and to lead. And we were just about to fly into Iraq, and a lot of intelligence was coming back from the light infantry, and the peacekeeping talks had just broken down, and the militia were getting bigger and stronger by the hour. And Muqtada al-Sadr, who was the main militia leader, he called a huge shura, which is like an O group, with every single militia fighting groups within their area of operations, and just said, look, let's go. Let's massively go on the offensive, smash every coalition force, which is the British Army, the Americans, and whoever else from NATO's out there. And we're going to cause a huge effect. And we knew this because we started to see some of the casualty rates coming back. The intelligence was coming back from that tour, and I knew it wasn't going to be a peacekeeping mission like I'd done previous 2 tours of Kosovo. This was going to be my first time going into such a violent arena, kinetic at the extreme. And I tell you what, I wasn't wrong. It was wild from flying in to Al Amara. So Al Amara was in the middle between Baghdad and Basra, and it was in a city. So city fighting was really difficult, a little bit different from Afghanistan. I found being in the urban environments really tough and challenging, because there was so many moving parts to fighting in built up areas. For me, it was challenging. And I remember trying to hand over takeover. So we were the relief in place for the light infantry, and they'd finished their tour. The kind of the last 3 weeks was really tough for them. They were under so much pressure,
ready to go home,
and we were fresh, load of energy, buzzing to take over, to get amongst it. But that didn't last long, because we were brought back to home with a bang. And that is not even a pun either. I mean, we were literally, the first day we done our familiarization patrol, we were smashed. So we were basically doing a fighting handover takeover, which was brutal. I'd never done that before. Everything was in slow time. You would normally, your handover takeover with the outgoing commander would be slow, concise, with clear direction. This was aggression, violence, and just listen, because that's what you had to do. So there was no going into the city and looking at, you know, the vulnerable points, vulnerable areas, you know, the latest area to have a lot of movement in, who the main players were, who the main militia leaders, who the village elders are, and bedding slowly. There was none of it. You know, we were taking casualties on our handover takeover. C Company, wow. my company took, I think it was like 14% casualties in their first, I want to say 12 days. It was nuts. But we had to adapt, we had to react, we had to go on the offensive. I remember the CO saying, you know, we are at a stage now where we have to smile, shoot, smile. The reason why it was smile, shoot, smile, because we still had a job to do, is to rebuild Alamara, to restructure, to try and gain a little bit of peace within that AO. So he would say, if we're met with aggression, you go aggressive, but then you smile to the children who are innocent in all this carnage, to try and restore a little bit of normality to them. But it was never smile, because we were just under so much pressure. It was just continuing to shoot. And the 1st of May was my real test of, I don't know, leadership, pressure, carnage, confusion, disorientation. It was when my vehicle was, we were on the way to do a resupply. It was during Operation Waterloo. And we did 3 huge operations in Alamara: Operation Waterloo, Operation Hammersmith, and Pimlico. And Operation Waterloo was basically to try and resupply an outpost which was in the heart of Alamara, which was under siege all the time, and it was known as Simic House, and that was where our wide company were. And we went in the city, and as soon as you break through the city barriers, that's it. You're just getting smashed from all angles. And I just remember Johnson Bahari, who then went on to win the Victoria Cross. He was my driver. And on the way in to do this resupply, he'd said, look, there's barricades up everywhere. There's burning tires everywhere. There's exits all barricaded up. And as he said that, I thought to myself, that's just like we're just in a choke point here, and we're going to get smashed. And as I was thinking it, the vehicle just got hit by everything. We got hit by 2 AT-4 Soviet Union missiles, which come straight for the side of the vehicle, penetrated our armor, come straight through, caused all sorts of chaos in the back. We were all casualties. I was then up to my shins in diesel. There was a fire in the vehicle. I was inhaling so much thick black smoke full of, you know, which the rubber was burning from inside the vehicle. My young platoon commander was on the turret floor, unresponsive. You know, I thought he was dead initially. My gun is burning, and it's only my driver who's reacting. And the other 2 lads who were in the back with me as dismounts, one wanted to get out and have a fight and have a tear up, but you could hear the carnage outside of the vehicle. And the other one was just kind of a little bit battle shocked. His top of his nose had been taken clean off by shrapnel, and he was non-emotional, just looked at me as if nothing was really happening. So I had a lot to deal with as a young commander in the back. One, I wasn't in control of the situation, so that scared me, and I was experiencing all sorts of emotion, fear being the biggest one, and really threatening to take over me. But I understood that, and I needed to grab hold of that and channel it and suppress that fear and give clear direction, because fear is infectious. If I'm going to run around with my hair on fire, screaming and shouting, that's infectious. And it's not a great team. Exactly. And it's not, in my opinion, good leadership. Good leadership is being calm under pressure and just giving clear direction, because calm breeds calm. And that's what I tried to do. And my main effort was to put the fire out. I had a few dramas doing that, but I managed to do that. But then it sucked all of our oxygen out, because it was a fire extinguisher, which basically sucks in all the air and then just basically extinguishes a flame by suction. Yeah, but also takes your air away. And we were struggling to breathe anyway. And then I kind of got these cloths. I soaked them in, water, put them on the lads' face, act as a filter. And then, we had to self-help. We were bleeding. Irvin was bleeding in the inside of his leg, was badly wounded. I had shrapnel. My face was like pebble dashed with the blast and shrapnel. My arm, I had shrapnel into my left arm. You know, we just had to be, you know, leaders in that situation, even as private soldiers, and deal with your own, you know, wounds, because we're all able to do that. Crucifix, the lad opposite me, couldn't, because his nose was kind of clearly hanging off. So I sorted him out, and we managed to get out of the killing area, got to a safe haven, and that was the 1st of May, which was a real, sort of dark experience of pressure, and trying to really maintain my calmness, thinking I've done enough, I'm going to make it out of here, because like I said, I wasn't in control. But Johnson Bahari managed to get the vehicle going again and got us out, and got us to a safe haven, being Simic House, which was where our Y company was. 14th of May, it's very well documented, and it's in here in detail, which is my book, Double Crossed, and I'll skim over it because of time. But if you really wanted to go into the devil of the detail, then it's in the book if anyone's interested. If not, you can do some bits and bobs on the internet. But 14th of May started off like a normal day. We were out doing a vehicle checkpoint. And for me, what I was doing, I was pulling every 3rd or 4th car over, or if there was a vehicle that looked suspicious, I would pull it over. And
this is less than 2 weeks for the when you got blown up. Is that right? Yeah.
So the first of May I was blown up, but then because of time, I skimmed over. I actually had to go to Shiba Log Base, which was in Basra, to the field hospital, because I started to lose sight in my eyes, and I had some kind of wounds that needed attention from the blast. And I spent 5 days in hospital in Basra. I declared myself fit because the doctor I was having an issue with the doctor trying to sign me off fully fit again, because I was a leader. I needed to be back leading my men and get amongst it. But through reasons that the doctor said, my eyes weren't fit enough because of the damage that they sustained in the blast. But I managed to like bluff him and do an eye test, cheat on the eye test, and then he knew what I was doing. He basically sent me back up north, and I flew back in. And on the 14th of May, so only a few days after, I was on a VCP, vehicle checkpoint, and then on my radio I was told to stop what I was doing, get into the vehicle. Did that, got on the intercom, and there'd been an ambush, and there was 2 casualties from the Argyle and Southern Highlanders. I was getting told this. Our mission then was to go down Route 6, which was a main supply route, to pick up the 2 casualties, act as the kind of first aid, first on the scene, and making sure that we got these lads who were hit back to the regimental aid post within an hour. We call it the golden hour from point of injury, to make sure that they're in a decent role to get, to try and prevent them, becoming worse, or worst case dying. So we knew we were under time pressure on the way down down Route 6. Well, we just got absolutely battered by another ambush, but this time it was different. They were out in the open and in trenches. So the vehicle come to a halt. It spun its turret. It then started to suppress the enemy. So we started to go into the 6 section battle drills at this point. So, it was locate the enemy and then try and suppress and win the firefight, which we were doing. I was still in the back of the vehicle at this point, starting to get the adrenaline because I can hear what was coming in and hitting the vehicle at this stage as well. The vehicle was doing its thing. The chain gun was going, which is 7.62 millimeter, and then our Radon, which is on, our cannon was 30 mil. So we got decent firepower, and that was punching this position, really getting amongst it, and we were starting to win the firefight. And then on the radio, my commander, Chris Broom, said, "Look, Woody, we're not having any effect here. They're just getting down in these trenches, getting up, pop shots, down, up, pop shots. We need boots on the ground. Prepare you and your men to dismount from this vehicle and go and launch a counter attack." And if I'm honest, I asked them to repeat that command because it doesn't happen very often. it's a punchy command. And I was like, no. So I said, can you say again? He said, yeah, we're not having any effect. There's a trench position, 15 to 20 militia fighters are in the position. Their weapons are AK-47s, Dushkas, RPGs, and a few other assault weapons. We're going to give you fire support, and you're going to get out, go into a holding area initially, and then I can then do my, estimate before I go over the top. So I was like, okay,
how many people were in the vehicle with you then? How many did you have in your multiple? Was it just 4?
At this point, me and 3 others. So sorry, me and 2 others. So there's only 3 of us. So I thought it was a punchy ask because there's only 3 of us in the back. But I understand mission command. I understood why, and we had a really strong fire support element. We really did, but we were weak on the ground. I mean, we were we were very light on the ground. But I mean, we don't. I know that the ratio is 1 in 3 when we do our estimate and stuff like that. But the bottom line is, you just got to sometimes step up. You've got to grab the situation by the scruff of the neck and really go for it. And that's what position that I was in at this point. I had to inspire these other lads who were in the back of this vehicle to follow me to this holding position, ready to launch. And they were good lads. I'd operated with them for a long time. We gained this trust in this bond. So they were like, yeah, we're going to come with, we're going to get amongst it. So I told my commander, we're good to go. And we're going to go for a mini H hour in 5 seconds. So it gives us all, what H hour allows is everyone to be synced. So on 5, I knew that back door would be fully open. And it's on hydraulics. So when you push the button, the driver will push the button because it's an armored door. The hydraulics kick in and it starts to open the door. And I said to him, you were good. Yeah, it's because it's for dismounted soldiers to do this. Right. Even though it doesn't happen very often. And I don't think, if I'm honest, it will ever happen again. I just don't think it will happen again like it did. It was just wrong place, wrong time. Or maybe right place, right time. I don't know. But you just got to be careful what you wish for. So anyway, this, I said to him, we're good. On 5, 4, 3, on 3, the door starts to open. And in the back of an armored vehicle, it's really dark in there. You're sweating, because at this point in May, it's touching 55 degrees. And you could even go on your app now and have a look at, Iraq or Basra, and it's going to be well up there, even now in the temperatures in May. Yeah. It's red hot. And in the back of an armored vehicle, sweat is pouring off you, plus your adrenaline, plus you're just hyped. It's just, you're full of emotion. And like I said, the door was open. The first thing I remember is just how bright it was, and it was squinted. And then I needed to, so before the door opened, I asked my commander if there was a location that I could run to, which was cover from view and fire, that would give me a chance. And he said, yeah, it's 11 o'clock at your door. You'll see it. It opened. I seen where he wanted me to go to. Hard, fast, and aggressive. I went into the holding sort of area, got my breath. The other lads were there with me. And then I went up, crawled up, had a look where the trench was. It's 120 meters to my front. Done a little bit of an estimate process. Do I go right flanking? Do I go full frontal? Or do I go left flanking? I did my deductions and cancelled right flanking because I didn't know if there was anything out to the flanks, interference. Left flanking, I was too close to the vehicle and I just was, worried on blue, which is friendly on friendly. So I just decided, the best course of action was to go up straight down the middle. At this point, 2 other soldiers joined us from another platoon. So another vehicle had turned up. So now we've got 2 vehicles and also 2 more guys. So we've got a section really, 5, section 6, but we've got, or an 8, but we've got 5 people. So we can work as a 3 and a 2, which is brilliant. And it just gave me that bit more belief. Spoke to the other commander because it's now me and another commander. Spoke to him. We had a conflab and then decided we're just going to go hard, fast, and aggressive straight down the middle. And, we wished kind of each of us the best. We were going to go full aggressive. And, we decided we would move first, like Delta Fire Team would move first and Charlie Fire Team would bound past them. And we would move with leapfrog, pepper pot in effect. It's all well and good when you're saying this and you're training, but when you do it for real, sometimes you go into leapfrog method, sometimes you go into pepper potting. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's method of movement. You just go and you roll whatever, as long as you've got one foot on the ground and you're always suppressing that target. It doesn't matter how good or bad you do on the ground that day. And we just made sure that we always had suppression and cover from covering each other's movements. I mean, we moved, and then it become a real two-way engagement now. And effective enemy fire is, you know, rounds in and underneath your feet, or you're taking casualties. And at this point, there was rounds in and underneath our feet, zinging past my ears, and it was just having that belief and that desire to keep moving forward, keep pushing forward. Got closer, 50 meters away, then we're 40 meters away, and I start to see some of the militia fighters leave the position. So now we've got the upper foot. They're starting to withdraw. So we're now the aggressors, and none of us have been hit yet. And I expected someone to be hit, if not myself, then someone else would have been a casualty, but it never happened. We got closer and closer, and as we were just about to roll that position, that main position up, the remaining fighters on that position threw their weapons down and surrendered. And
wow.
when you train for operations, you get educated on rule of law and rules of engagement, and you have to adhere to them. But it's really hard, because when you're fighting for your life, and when you're closing with, and you know your intent is to close with and destroy the enemy. These people have tried to kill you. Yeah, it's hard to just all of a sudden switch, but we did it. You know, there's a bit of confusion, thinking, oh my God, what do we even do now? And there's bodies that had been hit by, you know, which were killed in action, and they were in quite a bad way. Then there's a live militia now having a two-way conversation with us, and we need to maintain that, you know, calm that situation down. Weapons were everywhere, ammunition was everywhere, and it was just a crazy, frightening time at this point. Managed to control the situation, managed to give some clear direction, and we were in the trenches with them now, because we knew it wasn't clear, because we saw fighters fall back. Managed to segregate the bodies, segregate the PAWs, and unload all the weapons. And then this time my sergeant major turned up, company sergeant major, asked me if the battlefield was clear, which was a huge integrity question for me. And I'd said it wasn't, because it wasn't. I saw militia fighters move back, and he told me to put a fresh magazine on, and me and him were going to go and conduct a clearance patrol. And within 90 meters, we become decisively engaged. My sergeant major eliminated the target, which was a militia fighter. I bounded forward, and I could have tripped over this other fighter. He had an RPG basically stacked up, ready to put into my chest, and I nearly tripped over him. And I just, from close, I'm talking arm's distance away, put, you know, a few rounds into him and move forward. And I knew we were in a real dangerous situation. So I said to my sergeant major, a bit of moral courage, really, because he was such an inspirational leader of men. However, I still had that moral courage to say, we need to go back, because we're really vulnerable. And on the way back to the main position, I saw a flicker movement from the flicker in my eye, corner of my eye. And as I've looked, there were two more fighters with weapon systems, and I was like, no way. Run my weapon up to engage, and they threw their weapons down and surrendered. So we then had to go and do the same, take them as PAWs. And actually, as I was approaching him, I recognized one of the militia fighters. I thought, I recognize you. He was one of the Iraqi policemen who I mentored. So when you're out in Iraq, you do a mentorship. So you're trying to educate and mentor either the Iraqi army or the Iraqi police force, for when we go, they can conduct.
So you can take over.
Yeah. So I just I couldn't believe it. You know, I invested in him so much, but that's what I mean. It's you're fighting like completely an enemy which will do anything to cause chaos and harm to you. So it's like he was smirking, and yeah, there's nothing I could do about it. It was just the ultimate betrayal, and I was like, okay, whatever. And got back to the vehicle, and that day just continued to be carnage. There was then a call made by brigade that we had to go and pick up the bodies that had been killed on the battlefield, which is a big call to make, and trauma-wise was extreme, because it's difficult enough punching in close quarters and engaging and killing the enemy. And you hear people talk about it and gob off about it, but the bottom line is I've experienced and done it for real, and it's hard yards, because regardless if they're enemy fighters, it's still a human being. Yes, we've got a job to do, we do it, but when it's close and personal, and then you have to go back and pick that body up
after
and,
battle, after the heat of battle, is a different story, isn't it?
And I'm only human. I'm only a human being, and this young fighter must have been about 17 years old. I'm picking him up and stuff's falling out of him. It was just horrendous. The scenes were horrendous. And then we load them up into the vehicles, and that took probably another 40 to 50 minutes. And then we made our way back to Abanaji, which was our main operating base. Went over to the regimental aid post. We tried to open the door. The door wouldn't open. The only other way to get the door open is for someone to climb through the back. We paid, rock, scissor, paper. Whoever lost would do that task. It was a nightmare. My driver lost. He went in, crawled in, hand cranked this door open. You can only imagine what was going on in that vehicle. It was carnage. But it's realities of war. This stuff does happen, and it's really extreme trauma. And we did it, and we had to then take all of our clothes off, get it all burnt. And I went into the showers, and normally our camps would be getting rocketed on a very regularly, but I just at that point didn't care, because I was just probably battle shocked myself. I was exhausted, and I just like, what even happened that day? That was carnage. So in a nutshell, in summary, that was kind of, Danny Boy on the 14th of May, and then the 1st of June, we had a nightmare again with Johnson Bahari getting hit with that RPG, and he was unresponsive, and it was just really hard because it was in the middle of a full gun battle, and me and Coops, another lad, had to jump out and unclip his harness because he was a driver, pull him out of the driver's hatch, administrate first aid, keep him alive, and get him back to Broadmoor prison, which was another area that we occupied as British forces, to then him getting extracted. The next time I seen him was at Buckingham Palace, where I was awarded the Military Cross and he was awarded the Victoria Cross. So that tour, was extreme. It was my first tour of combat, and it was combat every single day. And like I said, it tested me in every angle possible to known to a person in extreme. And I'd seen a lot of trauma. I'd seen people get in taking casualties. I was trying to save people's lives. I was, expected to make some huge decisions in a split second and commit and roll with it. It was tough times. And then I went on to do a second tour of Iraq, and then in 2012 did a tour of Afghanistan. But I won't really go into any of them tours because of time, and I'm conscious of that. But the main tour, and no doubt we'll finish up on a Q&A, which was for me the hardest, both professionally and mentally, was definitely Iraq. And then years later, I was down with the Royal Marines. I was picked to go down there and instruct on their senior command course. So I was a colour sergeant at this point, went down there as an instructor. And in 2009, allegations came out of nowhere. And the allegations were murder, mutilation and mistreatment against me and my fellow soldiers. And it got traction, and then it went onto the TV, it went onto the news, it went into the newspapers, and it was brutal. From being awarded the Military Cross by Her Majesty the Queen to now having these allegations put against us, it was really, really difficult to understand why. The lack of support as well that we never got, which was gutting, both from the government and a little bit from the British Army. But I talk about that in the book on lessons learned. But these allegations were pushed, and they were headed up by Phil Shiner, and
this is a lawyer, is that right?
Yeah, he was the public interest lawyer who was getting paid a hell of a lot of money. The inquiry lasted for another 5 years. So wow. 2009, 2015 was when the summary came out, and it was brutal. Honestly, was the hardest time of my military career. I fought a harder battle to clear my name on UK soil than I did fighting in foreign fields. It was so tough. My back was against the wall. Mentally, I was in a really demanding place because there was just so much going on. And fast forward 5 years, the inquiry, when I went into the dock, I was cross-examined for 3.5 hours. And a year after that, the summary came out, and Phil Shiner, who the lawyer was found guilty on 12 accounts. It was wholly without foundation, a degree of, dishonesty, lies, and reckless speculation. But it's human life. It was a nightmare to try and deal with. And but anyway, I showed up every day. I kept attacking every day, and it was a demanding period of my life, but I got out the other end of that real testing times because I had good people around me. I had a family that I could speak to and open up and be open and honest, which is really important because it leads into that mental health piece as well. I'm not shy to say, I struggled with my mental health. I actually went and got some professional help for my mental health, and I spoke about the trauma that I'd been involved in within 2004. My second tour of Iraq, I was involved in a suicide where one of the soldiers put a weapon in his mouth and pulled the trigger. I hadn't spoken about that, so I parked all that, and all of this was just on my shoulders to the point that, and when these allegations came out, I was broken and I needed to go and speak to someone about it. And when I started creating dialogue and sharing my experiences, my pressures, my mental well-being, I started to understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. I could create a toolkit which was going to support me and help me. And that's why now, it's so important to really take mental health so serious. I'm a huge advocate for it. And I know Jordan Wiley, who's a huge ambassador for you guys, he really pushes it and promotes it. And Big Phil also does the same, because the bottom line is there's no health without it. It's not, yes, it's still a bit of a taboo subject. It's still got that stigma around it. But listen, the bottom line is we're in 2021. We've just got to have the capability to talk about it. Life is beautiful, but it's a demand. You're going to meet adversity at some point in your life, and you have to be prepared to share and be brave enough to create dialogue about that, because otherwise you'll do what I did, and it's a slippery slope. But I overcame it. I got the better of it, and so that's kind of my military side of things. And I know some of the skills that I did as a soldier, as a commander through my time in the infantry is similar to what you as cadets do. We talk about section attacks, platoon attacks, 6-section battle drills, doing combat estimates. We talk about fine maneuvering, pepper potting, leapfrogging. All of this I did because it was the basics, and if you do the basics well, you can achieve. So all of this, training that I did, and also I was in the cadets as well when I was growing up. I was in Borden in the REMI cadets, so I was getting educated on going down to the ranges, understanding a set of orders. So I was kind of advanced then, and for me, it was a really good. It set the conditions because I did understand what it was like to be around a team, what it was like to work as a team, what you get and the benefits you get from working as a team. I understood leadership at a younger age than my other civvy friends did, who weren't involved in cadets or weren't involved or didn't have any interest in being a soldier. I understood this a lot as an early age. So even my time in the cadets, to walk in that corridor to go and get that medal pinned on my chest, it still played a part of my journey, and it has a huge impact, and that's why when you got hold of me, I was like, done, because I respect it is a huge respect that everyone serving in the Army Cadets around the UK, for you guys giving up your time and doing your thing as well, for the Army Cadets. If if it's a part-time job that you're doing, or if you're involved full-time, then it's just brilliant. And we got to continue that, because the skills that it's a life skill. If I'm honest, you will take this through your life journey, and not many organizations have that. You can go away on your school trips and your other trips with your communities, but as an Army Cadet force, it's up there with the best. So fair play. I'm going to jump on.
It's funny on that point, just before you move on, the Brigadier speaks about he's got a strap line, which I really like, which is about how, as an organisation, we set young people up for lifelong success. And you've kind of articulated that in a slightly different way, but it's totally true. And that those skills and the kind of values that you instill can stay with you. So you've left the military now, haven't you? And you kind of moved on to other things. But some of those things that you learned, and the ethos and some of the softer skills you've managed to use and transition into a different arena. So it's no different for the cadets.
No, absolutely not. And it's these life skills which will definitely help you along your journey of life. And I don't say that lightly. It's a fact, and like you said, I'm still, dipping into my experiences to what I'm doing now. And just before we went to our first lockdown, I thought I'm gonna launch a business, and my business is going to be born from my backstory, and it's going to be called Keep Attacking, because Keep Attacking, I believe, can relate to everyone. It's a subliminal meaning. It's one that is very unique and personal to the individual, and it states, in chaos or in calm, no matter what situation that you're facing, if you keep attacking, it will surpass. And I know everyone has their own challenges, because it's life. If you're suffering grief, or you're trying to get back from an injury, or you've had a setback, or for me in business, if you're really struggling, if you have that ethos and that drive to show up every day and continue to go on the offensive action, it will get better. So when I was going through this real hard period of my life with the allegations and under the microscope on TV and the newspapers, I knew if I showed up every day, I can increase my footprint. And to do that, I have to want to do it, and I know it can get better. And it was tough, and there was a lot of down days, and a lot of arguments and so on and so forth, but the bottom line is I kept on going. And the business is is Keep Attacking. It's sports and apparel wear, and it's for anyone. I've got performance clothing on there, and I've got just loungewear on my website. So I launched it, didn't have any money, but I had bags of determination, desire, and I was really driven. And then it just kind of grew and grew, and then we started shipping like abroad, and then it got bigger, then it was like global, and I was like, oh my god, this is going wild, to the point that I had to employ my wife. So my wife works for Keep Attacking. So it's been difficult, it's been hard, it's been challenging, but I'm really enjoying it. And and long may that continue. My book, it was actually my 2 years anniversary from publication day in 2019, and so which was 2 years ago. That was yesterday. And then seeing my life story, which is going to be on everyone's TV screen soon, because it's going to be a BBC 2 90-minute drama coming probably May, I think. Just goes to show, if you never give up and you continue to attack, then good things in the end will start to come out and start to happen. And it's not luck. People say, oh yeah, you're really lucky, but you make your own luck. The harder you work, the more opportunities will arise, and you just got to capitalize on that, and you've just got to be hungry. I say to my son, right, Bailey is my boy. He is just about to join the army. Next month, he leaves to go on his journey to Harrogate. He's got a goal to be a paratrooper. And me and him have, through this lockdown, I've really tried to spin on the positive side of it. And we've really trained hard together. And I'd like to think that I've played a little bit of a part in his life. But the bottom line is, if you want to achieve in life, you have to work hard for it. Nothing's for free. you've got to really want it. You've got to really get after it and have that motivation and that discipline. Motivation only lasts however long you're motivated for. It's discipline. If you have that discipline and create a habit, it will then definitely help you out. And Bailey, to be fair, he's very well self-disciplined. He's been at it. He's hungry for it. And it's been a real pleasure for me to get amongst it with him and train together and recapture this bond that, you know, I spoke about before we went live. You know, it was important for me to do that because his younger years, I was away always on operations or training. So to gain this real bond and to put him on his dream, it was it's been brilliant. And my younger boy, you know, it's just fitness is infectious. So now I've got Bailey training. I'm now up running with my wife, and my youngest now, Charlie, he's cutting about training with us. So it just becomes infectious in the household, but also how good is it for your mental capacity as well? It's just freedom time. It's so important to look after your health, because in line it looks after your mental health as well. But yeah, I've obviously gone on, but I'm conscious that the cadets will have questions, and it's really important for me to answer if they've got questions.
No, that's great. Thanks very much, and it's a great story. So it's worthwhile just spending a wee bit extra time talking about it. It's been really good to listen to it. So thanks very much for sharing that with us. So I've got a couple of questions here. So we set a wee task to the cadets beforehand, which was for them to submit some questions, and I've kind of picked a few of the sort of good ones. And I know that there's probably been some questions in the chat as we're going through this. So we'll go through these first. The kind of task was for the cadets to submit the question. You get the difficult choice. You're choosing the best question, and I know that you've got a signed copy of your book and some goodies for your Keep Attacking brand for the lucky winner. So let's jump into the questions. So the first question here is from Cadet Hewitt, who's from Falstead School Combined Cadet Force, and the question is as follows: have you ever faced PTSD, and if so, how did you cope with it? I think you probably touched on that a bit already.
It is a good question, and yes, I mean, you know, it's when you're experiencing trauma, it's abnormal. So there's going to be an effect, because whether it's a road traffic accident or whether it's a spontaneous incident that you witness, it's not the norm. It's not normal daily activity. So that then can react as definitely a trauma incident. And I was involved in a lot of traumatic scenes and experienced a lot. So for me, yes, and spoke about it and went and created a toolkit. And now I don't talk about PTSD, I talk about post-traumatic growth. So growing through adversity. So I want to grow through my experiences and giving people, you know, that, you know, sort of experiences, or sharing some of my toolkit that I've created, or, you know, really being positive and thinking, you know, that it definitely will get easier, will get better. But for that to happen, I had to visit some really tough places, and it took a long time for me to open up and be honest about what I experienced. But long and short of it, yes, but I went and done something about it, because that's so important.
Okay, thanks very much. That's good. I like that post-traumatic growth. That's really a positive message. Okay, another question here. Now this question, this cadet always submits questions. Cadet Fraser Jorgensen for 5 Platoon Scots Guards. His question is drama stroke documentaries like The Crown are often inaccurate. So how do you ensure the authenticity of Danny Boy that has been filmed for the TV depicts your story correctly?
Because I was there, and I was a military advisor.
Right. So you're the military advisor on your own program. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So if there's any SUSAT sites around the wrong way or anything like that, then
I will 100% be accountable for that. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it was really important. I mean, Danny Boy is known globally because of what it entailed, and also the aftermath of it and how it went into the sort of, you know, well, the public domain. It was a public inquiry, so all eyes were on it. And for me, you know, look, the drama is going to be the drama. They will dramatize a few bits and bobs, but the bottom line is I needed to make sure the authenticity on the battlefield side of things was right, because these people aren't dead. They're still alive. The people went through it with me. So I have to do them justice. I have to do my regiment justice, and I have to do the British Army justice. And I made sure before I signed anything that this was all drawn up in the agreement. So, yeah, I mean, good question. And also I've got 2 cousins in the Scots Guards, so fair play. And yeah, anything that you ping on the screen, which I'm sure you won't, however, definitely give me a bit of grief, because I will be accountable for it. But I worked my socks off to make sure it was all good, and all yeah, I was repping my regiment with pride doing so.
Cool. Right, we'll look forward to that then. Challenge accepted. Okay, I've got a question here from Cadet Richard Hodgetts, I think it is, Hodgettaes, from Wiltshire. He said, what was your first thoughts when you were told to fix bayonets? P.S. Do you remember my dad? I don't know if you know somebody with the second name.
Hodgetts, I do. He's my,
Hodgetts.
If it's Hodgetts that I know, he was my platoon commander in Tidworth.
Right.
Fair play. Nah, Mr. Hodgetts. If it's the same one.
Well, there's a good chance it is.
It's fixing bayonets is a myth, because it's a standard operating procedure. It's a drill that soldiers do. It's a drill when you're in CQB, which is close quarter battles. It's second nature. But I don't know, the media kind of, get fixated with it. They kind of glorify this. Oh my God, cold steel bayonets. It's like, yeah, it's what we do. It's our drill. So, what was it like? It was just something that we do often. It's what we train for. It's the standard operating procedure that we do as frontline soldiers. When you're going in and it's close and personal, then you fix bayonets, because on the approach, if you get a stoppage or if you run out of ammunition, you're going to switch to your secondary weapon, which is your bayonet. So I don't really get too hyped up with it. A bayonet's just the same as a flash eliminator, really. It's a weapon, and that's what we use it for. So yeah, but if it's the same Hodgetts, then yeah, he was my platoon commander in 8 platoon years ago. Years and years ago.
Okay.
Major Peacock, there's another question here from one of the people at Brighton College, and it was about your experience out there, Woody. Do you think that the lack of support for British servicemen and women, such as what you saw with your allegations, is responsible for the current lack of young people joining the armed forces?
I don't think so. I really don't. If I'm brutally honest, I think we were very unlucky. I could come on this chat and say, yeah, definitely. Maybe a couple, but not a lot of people really go into the devil of the detail on different support elements. And look, like I said, we were unlucky. It was, a situation I don't think will arise again. We've now, for the first time ever, got a veterans minister, which is Johnny Mercer, who I know very well. There's a new bill that's just recently been submitted, an operational bill that will protect, soldiers and not allow what happened to me and other soldiers to happen again. There's still this ongoing Northern Ireland battle, but that's just a bigger agreement. That's a whole different situation from the Good Friday Agreement that hopefully will get fixed, but there's a lot more moving parts to that. But anyway, there's been battles in Parliament to get legislation for us, to support us, and it will definitely help moving forward. I don't think it will put that many people off joining, because like I said, it was just unlucky, and I definitely forgive. At the end of the day, it was just unfortunate. I've got to move on, look forward to the future, look forward to the now, the present, and and just look, my son's joining the military. If I thought against it, if I thought for 1 minute, then there's like huge, like massive areas to be exposed by the government or by these vultures and ambulance chasing lawyers, then I'll be like, Bailey, no, hold back, go. I went through it, but it's not like that. the military is just an incredible organization. It is, I can't praise it enough. Hence, I encourage my boys to, if they want to. I wouldn't push them or force them, no way, but I'll support them because it's an incredible organization.
All right, I think we've probably got time for another one, and I'm going to combine two questions here. So we've got one question.
What was that? Hang on, what was that? I just seen there about Wikipedia. I just flashed up on my screen. What was that?
How do you feel about having a Wikipedia page, Tara Doughton?
Look, I'm just an ordinary dude, if I'm honest. You know,
not quite.
No, I am definitely 100%. I'm just an ordinary guy who wanted to serve his country, make a small difference. You know, I volunteered my service, and you know, this has happened. And like I said, I'm just an ordinary guy. It's on Wikipedia. Is it flattering? Absolutely. And yeah, it's just a write-up, isn't it? So no,
you're going to be in the TV soon, so
well, this is it.
Shoulders for Stars, etc. Right, thanks very much. So I'm conscious about keeping you too long, so thanks very much for taking the time. Right, you've now got the difficult task. I don't know if it's maybe as difficult as any other task you've had in your life, but choosing the best question there for one of the cadets. So what question jumped at you there?
What have I got to answer that now?
You do, unfortunately.
Probably the legislation question about recruitment, because if people are on the edge thinking, I'm not going to go in, you know, if for instance, the person that sent the question in is on the fence, then you don't need to be sitting on the fence, because it shouldn't put you off. I was, like I said, just unlucky. You know, like I said, I can't praise the organisation enough. It's incredible. So, you know, whoever asked me that question, I think good question to ask. And when you read my book, then you hear me speak about, you know, that period of my time as well, and how I sort of dealt with it.
It managed to deal with it.
And what I will say also before we jump off is, if there is anyone who is interested in the film or seeing what else progresses, I'm on social media, Brian Wood MC, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You know, I'm on there. So, and I'm always sharing any updates on social media first, because they're the people which really support me. So without going to magazines and stuff straight away, I go on social and go through the announcements there. But you know, it's a good tool to keep people up to date on what's going on. So if they wanted to follow me on that, then I'm just on the media, on them channels throughout. So I hope I haven't bored anyone to tears with my story.
Thanks very much.
But no, it's a pleasure.
Cool. All right. Well, and that we will wrap it up. So we'll get the details of the cadet with the sort of contact details, etc. And I'll reach out to you and arrange to get that stuff posted out. So that'll be good.
Yeah. I'll just need the size.
I'll get all that details and stuff.
Yeah.
As her t-shirt size. Yeah, I'll get all that and I'll send it across to you. Along with her name and stuff. We'll get that sorted. Excellent. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak to the cadets. I've really enjoyed your listening to you, Brian. It's really good. And I've not yet read the book. I've listened to plenty of other stuff on you, but I'm going to go and buy the book now and make sure that I get a chance to read it. So
no worries. If they want, that's what I was going to say again. If they want a signed copy of my book, they want a signed copy, then they can go on to my website, which is www.keepattacking.co.uk. And if they wanted it personalised, as in name, with a message, they can just fill in the box on the website. So if they wanted it to Jack, you know, keep attacking, they can write that in. Or if they just want me to sign it, then they just purchase the book and they all come signed. So it's up to them. Yeah, they all come signed from the website. But if they want a message, there's a box there for a message.
There you go. So if you want a book that says "Well done, Major Peacock, for having the best question on the leadership series," then there you go.
No, I'm not having it. Then that's a fix. That's a fix. I'm going back to the ballot.
Right, cool. All right, thanks very much for your time. It's been great speaking to you, and I will hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.
Pleasure. No worries. And everyone,
everyone.
keep inspiring, keep doing your thing. All the best. Take
Thank
it
you.
easy.
Cheers. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Bye.